there's a ton of value in what we know. We don't need to stretch beyond that, and we focus on what we know and how we can provide value in the best ways. That's typically where you get the best results.
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hassman, and joining me today is a brand new rock star. I'm so excited to dig into the topics today. He's an e-commerce entrepreneur and the co-founder of a digital marketing agency focused on the Amazon platform. It's AMZ Advisor. So Michael Begg, thanks so much for joining me, man.
Kirby, thank you for having me here. I appreciate that great intro as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to dive right in as we get to know each other. So what is one project you're working on right now that has you totally fired up, and why?
I think one of the most exciting things that we're working on is the future. Well, for us, we look at it as the future of e-commerce. I mean, we do a lot of work on the Amazon marketplace in the US particularly, but where a lot of companies aren't paying attention, and a lot of brands aren't paying attention, are the global markets. We do a lot of work on helping brands from the US get into Europe, into Asia. But one area where we're really focused, and one area that I am the most excited for, is Latin America. There are a lot of challenges for brands looking to get into Latin America, and we're really helping them solve a lot of these problems. And I think that is going to be a massive opportunity for businesses going forward.
That's cool. If you don't mind me immediately kind of going off script just a little bit, what are some of the challenges that brands have to overcome going into Latin America?
So I think the first thing is just actually getting your product into the country. I mean, there's different ways to do it. Obviously, you can work with a local distributor. You need to find a partner down here. But if you want, since we work in the e-commerce space, we work with a lot of D2C brands. If you, as a D2C brand, want to be in Latin America, you need to have a business here. And to have a business here, you need to have a partner here. And to have a partner here, you first have to trust them. But number two, you might have to speak the language. And number three, after that, you need a tax ID, and we're just talking about more and more things that are complicated and take time. So for example, starting a business in Mexico can take anywhere from about 4 to 6 months. Wow. Starting a business in Brazil can take more than 12 months. So these are why a lot of companies don't focus on these marketplaces, is because of the restrictions, but the opportunity once you actually get through those is massive.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Okay. So you've created a successful e-commerce business. So, to me, that would be really tough. I feel like everybody's trying to get into the e-commerce area. So how do you stand out in such a crowded marketplace?
Well, fortunately, we put a lot of effort into differentiating ourselves, establishing our authority within the space. I mean, from day one, as a business owner, we focused on creating high value content for the consumers that we're working with, or the clients that we're working with. Yeah. That comes in different forms, from doing blogs, from doing webinars, from doing podcasts like this. The idea being that we want to demonstrate what we know. We want to show you how we can help you, not just try to, have a cold sales call on like, oh yeah, we do this. No, like, come to us, learn what we're doing. And then if you want to work with us, we'll do it for you. And that's kind of the way that we've always worked on establishing ourselves or differentiating ourselves from the main competitors.
Yeah, I like that. Sometimes it's like, if you can show people, you don't have to like tell them. Right? If you can actually kind of give an example of your work, it makes a big difference. So what's a mistake that you see other organizations making when telling their story, and how do you work with them to fix it? Or would you suggest they fix it?
I think the biggest thing is that there's no congruency. And when I say congruency, is making sure that the story lines up with what you're actually doing and how you got to that point. Because a lot of people have, the idea of how they got there, what works for them, or whatever it is. But if you're not having a story that lines up to all of that, then it's a little bit of a harder pitch. Like for us, our story as a business for AMZ Advisors, it's myself and two other partners. We all went for the same high school. We were all friends. We met at a sports camp. From there, we went to college, different universities. We started building other businesses together, and so on and so on and so forth. And it got us to this point. So like, that is the backstory that helps explain to how I am where I am today. And I think that's the important thing. And one of the things that we always consider is one of the more basic stories storytelling aspects is Simon Sinek's start with why. And for
Mm.
me, that's a very powerful tool, is when you could actually start with why you're doing something and then line the whole story up to how with how you got there and what you're doing now. It creates a really powerful tool for you to actually go out and sell your brand and the story behind your brand.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think it is one of those challenges where I think I was actually thinking about this morning, actually, Michael, is like, when you create content all the time, one of my concerns is when I'm doing something, I want to make sure I'm not giving advice to people that I don't actually follow.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes that's hard because, we know what to do, but it doesn't mean we're always doing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And self accountability is another big aspect of obviously being successful and running a business. But yeah, you don't want to be, it's easy to get caught talking up about things that you don't know 100% or you're not doing 100% versus like doing what you do really well and then explaining what you do really, really well. And there's a ton of value in what we know. We don't need to stretch beyond that. And we focus on what we know and how we can provide value in the best ways. That's typically where you get the best results.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. All right, cool, man. This has been great. So final question for you. I'm curious, and I've never asked anybody this. This will be my first time asking this. So if you had one piece of advice you could give your younger self, what would that be?
I think this is actually a question I've kind of been asking myself lately, and it's come up through a few other podcasts that I've done of people asking me is like, what are the pieces of advice that helped me get here? And if I had known them sooner, how would I have leveraged those differently?
Yeah.
And I think when I look back, there's been two really good mentors in my life. One was from an athletic standpoint. I played sports in college, and I didn't really think about it at the time, but one of my teammates went on to become one of the NCAA Player of the Year for lacrosse.
Wow.
And at the time, I was a freshman, I was just learning what college was like and college sports were like. And I remember in a cold, rainy November day, we're out running, and he said something to me like, all right, like Beggs, like keep going, like this is where we get faster. And it, to me, I just took that as like, all right, like whatever, this is just practice. But the reality is that's a mentality of using every opportunity you have to get better and better at what you're doing. And I think I didn't look at that in the right perspective until I was older. And if I started changing the way that I approached that from the beginning, I think I would have gotten better results faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other really good mentor is a hedge fund owner, a friend of mine. He really helped me look at what the underlying cause or being objective with what a problem is. So a problem comes across, it's easy for us to get emotional or to react in a certain way to that problem versus trying to understand what's actually causing the problem or what the root of that issue is. When we start focusing on that instead of how we're reacting to it or how other people are reacting to it, we can start actually addressing those problems and start moving forward. And I think those are probably the two pieces of advice that if I had learned younger, I probably would have done better. And then another one is the one I said before, is having a congruent story, being able to actually tie everything to from where you are to what you've done to how you are here today. And another example of where that was relevant in my life was when I was looking for jobs out of school. I graduated in 2012. The job market wasn't great. It took me a while to learn how to actually sell myself. And then once I learned it, it was easy. But the problem was that initial understanding of why is everything I've done up to this point make me relevant or compelling as a candidate for what this role is. And the same thing goes true for businesses.
Michael, this has been great advice. Where can people learn a little more about you?
So the best way, directly, it's mike@amzadvisors.com. If you're particularly looking for services on moving into Latin America, getting your brand into Latin America, or even growing and selling more on the Amazon platform, you can also check out our website, amzadvisors.com.
That's cool. Well, Michael, thank you so much. I really appreciate you doing this. And obviously doing it from a long way away. And this was really cool. This was really cool to connect. I really appreciate it. I
appreciate it, Kirby. Thank you so much for having me here today.
Cool. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time. Marketing Joy.